Welcome into the Friday Night Locker Room Show. For Steve Wilson, Orville Susan, I'm your host, Zach Clark. Guys, it's our favorite part of the show. I think it's one of my favorite parts of the show. It's the quick hitters, where we give a quick take on some of the games that are going on around in Brevard County. The first game we're going to have up, Astronaut taking on Space Coast. Start with Steve.
War Eagles need to get themselves in the right frame of mind with playoffs right around the corner. They'll be traveling to Avon Park, a long drive, but they need to take care of business Friday night at Space Coast. It's not going to be easy. We've talked about Fulton all year long running the ball well for Space Coast. Perez runs the ball well. On the other side, Hawkins can carry the ball and gain some yards for Astronaut. It'll be interesting to see how Space Coast rebounds after their double overtime loss to Titusville. Jake Owens is going to get the kids ready to play, there's no question about it. But I think the War Eagles are going to come out on top. They have not only a lot to play for to get themselves prepared mentally for the playoffs, but I think their offense is a little stronger than Space Coast, and he's got some kids on defense that can play football. I like the War Eagles in a tight one.
Orville, who you got?
Well, I think Randy Halleck's put it all back together again after the pieces kind of fell off the puzzle table in the middle of this season. But, he's got Jay Hawkins running the ball again efficiently, 72 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. Dominic Robinson, 74 yards for the Astronaut War Eagles. And you have to like that. Quarterback Brad Canary, 4 for 6. They didn't throw a lot, but very efficient. 4 for 6 for 101 yards and 4 touchdowns. I like the Astronaut War Eagles like Steve does.
Fort Pierce Central taking on Bayside. Steve?
Fort Pierce Central is going to be a handful for the Bears. They passed for over 400 yards last week against a very good Vero Beach team. They lost to them, but they scored a lot of points in the second half against Vero Beach. Bayside, it just hasn't been the year of the Bear, and it's not going to end on a happy note for Bayside. Fort Pierce Central is too strong.
I agree with Steve. You're getting down to the end of the season, and so many things now are open where you can sit back and look and see almost exactly what's going to happen. And this is one of those games where I think you can do that. The Bayside Bears 0-9 right now. Fort Pierce Central Friday lost to Vero Beach 42-28, but Vero Beach, a very good football team. I'm going to have to go with Steve and take Fort Pierce this week.
One of the best teams in Brevard County, Cocoa, taking on Rockledge. Rockledge, you had a strong showing against Merritt Island last week. Steve?
The Barbecue Bowl. It's time to eat barbecue on Friday night. This year it'll be in Rockledge. Cocoa Tigers remind me a little bit of the War Eagles in that they're playing the following week. They need to be mentally right come their first round game. They're going to be. I just don't see how Rockledge can play with them for 4 quarters. They can scare them a little bit early in the game, and that's what they're going to have to do. If Rockledge falls behind Cocoa early, they have no chance. But to have any chance, they're just going to have to create turnovers. They're going to have to do the things, just play almost a perfect football game, which is not an easy thing to ask a teenage boy to do or ask anybody to do. But the Cocoa Tigers, Gardner showed what he could do the first play of the Atlanta game last week. I think man for man, line them up. Cocoa is just too strong this year. I like the Tigers big.
Orville?
Again, I have to agree with Steve. Cocoa over Atlantic last week. That was a district ball game, but it was 56-0. And that was senior night for the Cocoa Tigers. And senior Florida Gator commit, as he mentioned, Chauncey Gardner, took the opening kickoff bat for a touchdown, and that set the tone for the rest of the game. John Wilkinson and the Tigers put their foot on the gas pedal and didn't let it up. They put up 56 points. I think Cocoa just too much for the young Raiders and the new coaching staff.
Next up, guys, is a great game we got coming up. Heritage taking on Palm Bay. Start with Steve.
Yeah, it's easily the 2 best teams in South Brevard. Some people say Heritage might be the best team in the county. Don't know about that. But they're awful good. They do a lot of things well. We've talked all year long about how they run the football, but really the secret to Heritage's success is their defense. And they've had a strong defense since week 1. Palm Bay, great offense, great running back, very good quarterback. I don't think their defense is quite as strong this year as Heritage. It's not far from it, but I think the Panthers on the defensive side of the ball, they're loaded. And offensively, we've talked all year about the skill position players led by Deshaun Mills, the quarterback. But, they've got some running backs. I like Heritage to win the game. It's a battle for South Brevard. It's going to be a huge contest. It'll be a great crowd there, a great atmosphere, but I think the Panthers are a little bit stronger this year than the Pirates.
Orville?
Heritage Panthers, they were able to win their district this year in 6A. That makes them the two-time district winner in that classification. And so they beat Bayside last week 44-0 to take their own record to 8-1 overall. For Heritage, LeCedric King, two of the big three-headed monster, two of the heads didn't even play very much at all. LeCedric King rushed for 203 yards and 2 touchdowns, averaging almost 13 yards a touchdown. That's going to be a tough man to stop. Quarterback Deshaun Mills, also like Steve mentioned, he ran for 3 touchdowns and threw for another one. Palm Bay Pirates got a big win. They had their way over Satellite with a convincing win of 45-19, but Satellite is no comparison to Heritage. I'm going to have to go with the Heritage Panthers also.
Merritt Island heads onto the road to Seminole. Steve?
It should be a great high school football game. The Mustangs, a week from Friday, will host South Lake in a region quarterfinal game. Talked to a coach a couple of weeks ago, and he told me that he thought Jimmy Batch, he didn't think there was a better quarterback in the county than Batch.
Ooh.
And that's saying something when you're talking about Deshaun Mills, Bruce Judson.
Yeah.
He said he thinks he's right there with him. He runs the ball, he throws the ball. We know about Mason Denenberg. Place kicker, no longer a secret weapon, kicked a 48-yarder, a 48-yard field goal Friday night. He's going to kick them further than that before he's finished, only a 10th grader. They're playing a Seminole team that's really good. The record doesn't match up with the Mustangs, but on paper, if you look at some of the state rankings, Seminole is favored to beat Merritt Island. They are at home. I'm going with an upset. I think Seminole's going to win the football game. I think it's going to be close. Merritt Island's good. I'll probably kick myself for saying that because Jeff McLean doesn't lose games at the end of the season, but I think they're primed for an upset. They'll right the ship, but look for an upset. Seminole is going to win at home.
Merritt Island got on the right track last week, beating Rockledge 23-11. They end up as the district champs, and also again they have not lost a district game in 4 years. So they set right up there at the top. The Seminoles host Merritt Island and have an overall record of 5-4. They're in Class 8A. Losing to Lake Mary last week 33-19. They will not be in the playoffs this year as Lake Brantley and University have that honor. I'm going to take the Merritt Island Mustangs to go in there and beat Seminole. And one of the reasons is the kicking team. We watched a young man by the name of Denenberg, like Steve Mason Denenberg, right, in Titusville, attempted a 55-yarder and it hit the pole 3/4 of the way up the post. If it would have got on the right side by 2 inches, it would have been another 10 yards into the track. I think it comes down to a field goal. I'd like to see Jeff McLean and the Merritt Island Mustang, if they get in a position to be able to kick a 62-yard field goal, I'd like to let them give this kid the chance because 61 yards is a state record, and I think Mason Denenberg has the leg to beat it. Wow. I'm going to take the Mustangs.
All right, guys. The next game we got up, Treasure Coast at Titusville. Start with Steve.
Treasure Coast has only lost one game this year, that being to Vero Beach. They did defeat Martin County, who's a pretty good football team. We saw a couple of weeks ago when Martin County hosted Vieira. The Terriers, what a huge win last week for Titusville. Yusuf DeReese is playing football like we all thought he could, and the reason for that is he's now healthy. He's been injured so much over the last year. They've got him playing healthy. This is their last game of the year. I think the Terriers will play well, but I don't think they have the talent across the board to defeat Treasure Coast. I think Treasure Coast will win the game.
Orville?
Titusville beat Space Coast last week in double overtime, 31-30. A point after was the difference in the ball game. I don't believe that Space Coast is anywhere near the football team that Treasure Coast is. Like Steve said, they come in with a very, very good record. Plus, they're an 8A school, so they got a lot more athletes to pick from. I think Treasure Coast wins this one on the road.
Next up, guys, we got Winter Springs and Vieira. Steve?
Donovan Jackson, Quentin Richards, Alex Cabrera, Trey Nixon. Those are the receivers that Hayden Kingston has. We talk so much about the receivers, but we probably don't talk enough about Kingston. All he does is put the ball where it's supposed to be. He has some great receivers, but he's playing fantastic football. And I think that's all you have to say. But you go back to last Friday's game, we covered the Vieira South Fork game. Our player of the game was Brandon Mays, who had 12 tackles in the first half alone. Just played phenomenal defense. Jay Boyd, Matt Mortarelli. Vieira has a lot of really good football players. I think the Hawks are going to win big. They're going to be ready for round one of the playoffs a week from Friday.
Orville? The Hawks did two things Friday night as everyone listened to the game on Space Coast Daily FNLR.com, and also on 89.3 FM in North Brevard and 90.3 FM in South Brevard, as that was our Friday night locker room game of the week. I was surprised by two things. Number one, I was surprised about the running game that Vieira put up. We saw DePlanky run the ball down against Martin County and did a very good job late in the ball game. But they mixed it up a little bit more this time, and they had a better running game. Jay Boyd, Brennan DePlanky, Mike Bernardi, Hayden Kingston, the quarterback, and Zach Trantham, who came in, young guy, as quarterback late in the ball game. They rushed for 182 yards total. I don't think that Vieira has rushed for 182 yards in a game all year. And the receivers that Steve talked about, you add them all up, a little over 2,200 yards receiving in the air from Hayden Kingston, the quarterback. I think the Hawks win this one, and I think they'll do a very good job at it.
Next up, guys, we got Somerset Academy taking on Holy Trinity. Steve?
Yeah, the Tigers lost a tough one last week to a very good John Carroll team. They actually played them closer than I thought they would. I thought John Carroll would take it to them, but Jay Sean Corbin and the Tigers played a good football game. They're going to rebound nicely. Somerset, not one of the stronger teams around. Holy Trinity will win big.
26-21, you know, Holy Trinity beat Melbourne Central Catholic. No one thought they would do that. And they played John Carroll to a very tough ball game, 26-21. John Carroll wins the district. Holy Trinity comes in second. I put my cards on the table for Nate Hooks and the Holy Trinity last week, and they let me down. So I'm going to give them one more opportunity to get back into the top list for me. But I think they rebound from last week, and I will be with Steve, and I'll take Holy Trinity also.
MCC and First Baptist Academy.
First Baptist Academy out of Naples, they're the number 6 ranked team in the state of Florida in Class 2A, only lost one game. MCC has a long way to go. This will be their last regular season game, and then they're done for the year. But I think the Hustlers are going to win the football game. I think they're finally healthy. You know, they came back, they scored 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter last week to win their game. I like MCC. I know it's a long drive, and I know on paper they're not favored to win, but I think Coach Riazzi is going to get the kids playing. They're going to feed off of the big fourth quarter they had last Friday for the Hustlers to drive home happy Friday night.
All right, Orville, who you got?
That's a tough thing, and it's a good pick. And you know, I looked at it, and Naples comes in with an 8-1 record. They're 6-0 in the district. A very good football team, very physical. But this will be their Hustlers playoff game because they are not going any further than next Friday night. I think Mike Riazzi and the coaching staff will do a real good job this week in practice to try to build their confidence and try to get them into this ball game. But I'm going to go against Steve, and I'm going to take Naples to win this one. A long ride down there for the MCC Hustlers, a very unhappy ride back.
Merritt Island Christian taking on Ocala Christian. Steve?
That's an easy one. Flip a coin.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think they're that evenly matched. I'm going to give the nod to Ocala Christian because they're at home. Merritt Island Christian, the Cougars, they do a lot of things well. They were just completely overpowered by a much bigger, stronger, physical St. Edward's team last week. And that's not going to be the case this Friday night, but hitting the road, going to Ocala, I think Ocala Christian has enough manpower to win the game. I think it's going to be close, but I think Ocala will win.
Orville?
Long bus ride going up, longer bus ride coming home. Merritt Island Christian loses this week. It'll be their last football game of the season, and the last football game for some very good senior football players that we've come to know going over to watch some of their games. And I want to wish all those guys a great future in football if they decide to do that. You know, the head coach, young man by the name, his son Max Power. We talked to him after the MIC game a couple weeks ago, and I mean, he's got all the talents. Even if it was a D2 school, he's not going to play football beyond Merritt Island Christian. He's going to go to a very good school and get a very good education. So this Friday will be his last night to play football, high school football. But I think Merritt Island Christian can come back with a loss.